Hi, Mark Washburn from Pond Algae Solutions here, and in this video I want to talk a little bit about a common problem that many pond owners have in the midsummer months, and that is something called duckweed. We get a lot of emails concerning this problem, and it's not an algae, so we may not treat it exactly the way we would with a string algae or a planktonic algae problem, but the pond that you see behind me actually is covered with various forms of duckweed. And I've got a sample of it here. This is a combination of some string algae with duckweed attached, and you'll see that duckweed actually has very small little pellets, and protruding off of these pellets is several very small thread-like roots. On most of these pellets, if we were to successfully pull them apart, you'll see about 3 roots to every bead or every pellet. Now this floats on top of the water surface, and it will often get blown around by the wind. A lot of people want to know how they can deal with a duckweed problem, and generally speaking, you're not going to treat this with the type of treatment you would use for an algae problem. Chemically, with algae, a lot of people use copper sulfate or Cutrin. Now with duckweed, that's not going to work. Generally, what's recommended is some form of an aquatic herbicide. 2 that I can recommend. Sonar is one brand name. Weedtrine D is another. Weedtrine D in particular is about 1/3 of the cost, if not more than 1/3 of the cost of what Sonar will actually cost. So Weedtrine D is a broad spectrum aquatic herbicide. They recommend to treat the duckweed problem as early as possible in the season, and thereby you can limit the amount of chemicals that you use and can keep it under control usually from that point on. The reason duckweed exists in one respect is very high nutrient loads in the pond. Often we find organic sedimentation and organic buildup at the bottom where when this starts to create a high nutrient load in the pond, it allows duckweed to be very prosperous. I've had other people say, well, isn't there a non-chemical way to deal with duckweed? Yes and no. We have had success controlling duckweed in ponds up to 3 acres in size if we do one thing, and that is begin treatment with our biospheres before the duckweed shows up. That means that we have to start treating in the early spring and continue on through the point where we might see duckweed, which is usually midsummer. By doing that, we can sometimes lower nutrient loads and thereby keep duckweed and algae from forming. Now, if duckweed is underway, if it's well underway like it is in this pond, a biological approach is probably not going to help in any immediate sense, and in fact it's recommended by many people that you don't even treat a problem like this mid-season. I often recommend to people that if they can be patient, let the duckweed run its course. It will disappear when the weather cools, the pond surface will clear again, and then you can be ready and prepared next spring to deal with it effectively rather than using an immense amount of chemicals to try to deal with it in this state. One other final point I want to make: if you decide that you're going to treat duckweed with a chemical in a condition like this, if it's over most of the pond surface, make sure that you have adequate aeration running. Be very careful about how you apply that chemical, because if you try to kill off too much of the duckweed at one time, i.e. all at once, you can pull a lot of oxygen out of the water and thereby have a fish kill or definitely stress the fish. So you need to use caution when you're trying to kill a vegetative growth all at once in a pond like this. So we hope that this helps explain what duckweed is, how you can deal with it effectively, when the best time to deal with it effectively is in the year. And if you have questions or comments, please post them below this video. We'd love to hear from you. And that's it for today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.